Well, or you had asked me if I'd done any Faroe Island images yet. I did do this one, my background for today. It was like fog on the water and fog on it was crazy. And you did,
Yes,
hey, by the way, you did a really cool time lapse when we were at that location. Can you possibly pull that time lapse up because it's
I
pretty
just
cool.
happen to have that on
You
my
just have,
screen.
and I think I just said in a previous show we never pre-planned this
Oh, wait a
stuff,
minute now. Hold
but
on.
we did pre-plan this one. But wait till you see this. It's pretty stinking cool on his iPhone. And here
Okay.
we go.
This was, I don't know, maybe a 10-minute time lapse. The clouds were just going crazy.
I think that's the coolest time lapse ever. I love
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah,
cool stuff.
yeah. It was,
One more time. There we go.
the clouds were pretty amazing there.
Yeah, and this is maybe this could be the show today. It's really interesting for Cole and I to go out and photograph together because we got to this location and I was like in heaven. I was like, "Are you kidding? Let's stop." And Cole literally goes, "Why?" And I said, "Because that's freaking amazing." I got out, I shot, I had my, tripod out. He never got out of the car. He sat in the car and he's got his phone resting on, because there's no tripod for it. We keep forgetting to bring that device to hold our iPhones on the tripods. But so he held it in the car window, and I get back in the car after whatever 20 minutes of photographing, and he shows me that. It was freaking fantastic. But it just goes to show that for whatever reason, he wasn't taken by what was going on at that moment in time and he didn't get a camera out. Yet I was enthralled. And it just to me speaks so clearly once again to this idea that we need to photograph what makes our heart sing. What I've kind of become known for, or what we're being taken by in the type of photography that I do and you do. And that it's okay because there was a time, Cole, where if you were photographing and I wasn't like feeling it, I was feeling pressure to, well, crap, if he's got I mean, not only do you have a camera out, but you are like, John, we need to stop. So, in other words, you are very much being taken by something and you are wanting to stop. And I'm going, yeah, I have no clue what you're seeing. And I've actually gotten to the point where rarely I do fall down every once in a while, but I really try hard not to then go over and look through your viewfinder or say, hey, what are you doing? Because then I'm going to fall into that old trap of, uh-oh, and now I'm going to, do what Cole's doing. So I don't do that. I do try to figure out what the heck you're pointing your camera at because
Well,
sometimes
it's
I
one of the dangers of shooting with a group because too often people will see someone shooting and then another person comes over and all of a sudden the whole group's over there. And you
yep,
have to admire the couple of people who are off doing their own thing
yep.
or who say to you, I don't want to see what you're doing, John.
That's right.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and people will, because I'm leading a tour, it's common for people to say, "Hey, can you come over and look at this for me?" And more often than not now, because we have really good photographers that come along, I find myself, having the dialogue with them and commenting or asking questions is really what I do. I really don't give much comment to them. But I'll try to get them to think for themselves, like we've talked about in the shows. But it's really common for me to walk away going, well, thanks for that, because now I can't shoot that.
Exactly.
And that is kind of like the three window scene in that church in the Pharaohs. Once I showed you that shot, you were like, well, great, thanks. Now I can never photograph windows in a church for you. It's probably that deep.
And you and I talked about Brooks's recent uh,
Yeah.
episode of Here's a Thought, and he makes some points that, in a sense, he's saying everything's been photographed, and whatever you photograph, somewhere in the world, someone else has photographed that.
Yep.
And he's saying, so is that wrong? And he began by asking, is it wrong to go buy a bell pepper and try to recreate Edward Weston's pepper number 30? He said in the photo world, that would be a great photographic sin. But really, everything we shoot has been shot by someone else before. Well, I'd like to provide a different thought on that. If I am walking along and I am in the grocery store and I see a pepper and it just strikes me and I take it home and I want to photograph it, then realize later that Edward Weston had done the same thing. To me, that's one thing versus me seeing Edward Weston's photo, running to the grocery store, buying a bell pepper and trying to recreate it. In each case, I'm going to end up with a photo of a bell pepper. But in the one, I'm trying to imitate somebody else's idea and work. And in the other, it came to me separately and uniquely to
Yeah.
me. And
So, so the word I think, and you and I talked about this briefly in an email exchange, I think the word that you used was right on the money, and that's intent, right? Isn't that what it comes down to? Is what's your intent? If your intent is to go do honest work, then scenario number one works. Hey, I'm going through the grocery store. Look at that cool, odd shaped pepper.
yeah,
Having never seen Edward Weston's pepper number 30, right? And you bring it home and you set it up and you photograph it, and later you go, oh my gosh, oh, that's what people are talking about. Edward Weston, I have never seen Pepper 30. Now I get it. That was cool.
yeah,
Very different than I see Pepper 30. Hey, that's a good idea. I think I'll go buy fruit.
yeah.
You know, yeah. Yeah.
And,
So,
and I told the story to you about when I submitted my first portfolio to Lenswork, and Brooks Jensen said,
yeah.
"Oh, we just published a very similar body of work by Larry Blackwood." And I'm like, Larry, I know Larry. And he and I had been working in parallel, unbeknownst to each other, on the same subject.
Yeah.
And so each was honest work
Yeah.
versus me seeing Larry in Lenswork, and then running out and trying to copy it.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got this great idea. No, you don't. You stole it from Larry.
Yeah.
So,
But I think, and then let's continue just for a second here, because Brooks then spoke about the fact that he and a friend got together and said, we're going to go purposefully to the same location and photograph the same feature and try to create the same identical image. And they couldn't do it as hard as they tried. So Brooks postulated that even if you see pepper number 30, there's no possible way you're going to be able to make the identical pepper number 30 that
to me,
Edward
that's not
Weston
important,
did.
though. What's important is if your intent is to try, it's already wrong
Yeah.
to say, "Oh, I see a pepper. I'm going to put my spin on it." I don't know. To me, it's just not.
Doesn't feel good to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, oh, John, can I look at your diary from the Faroe Islands? I want to write some cool entries, and I'm thinking maybe you can give me some ideas.
Yeah.
If it's self-expressive, then that means I'm not supposed to be looking at other people's photographs for ideas. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be me interpreting what I see and how I feel.
Yeah. And again, we don't always agree, is what I want to say is, but if I'm inspired by Edward Weston's sense of aesthetics, that he could get a pepper and that he could create this incredible piece of art from it. And then maybe down the line, I'm in the grocery store having been inspired by that. And 3 years later, I go, that's a really cool tomato. It's an heirloom tomato, which tend to be kind of gnarly and such. And I bring it home and I photograph it. Is that not
Every
unique?
person has to decide. But if we are, again, I know I'm in the minority here, but if I'm looking for a photo book for ideas, I'm saying
Yeah.
that's me looking through your journal for ideas.
Yeah.
It's just not self-expressive photography, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I tend to lean more towards that comment for sure, that it is not, how can it be well, I guess it still could be, but how could it be self-expressive if you're having to have Edward Weston give you the idea?
Let's argue. I'll argue against myself. Van Morrison,
Okay.
doesn't he only do covers?
I don't think so. Well, I don't know the answer to that actually. Now I'm gonna have to look that up. But let's say that's true. He only does covers. And then in that case, if it's true that he's only doing covers, he's doing some pretty darn good
And
covers.
he's putting his own spin on it. I just went to see Heart. It was fascinating. They did 4, maybe 5 Led Zeppelin
Yeah, they
covers.
love Zeppelin.
And they said, if we were to become a cover band, it would definitely be Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
And there's a case where in most covers, I think, nah, boy, but I listen to Hearts
Yeah.
stuff
Outstanding.
of Led
Outstanding.
Zeppelin. So I don't know. But
Yeah.
in general, I don't think inspiration should come by looking at other people's photographs, but by looking at the objects themselves,
Yeah.
the world around you, and finding inspiration there.
Yeah. All right, folks. Comments below. We always appreciate them.